I met a gypsy.
I haven't been able to go any deeper as to where that money goes. But from what I understand, Davey and MX Sports has to pay roughly $1 million a year licensing fee. So if I'm DMG and I want to make money out of the Nationals without doing anything, how would I do that? I would license the series and say, you guys pay me $1 million a year, do whatever the fuck you want with it. And then it's up to MX Sports to make more than $1 million a year, and that's how MX Sports profits, right?
Right.
So so DMG, there you go. We just want to make $1 million a year off Motocross Championship. That's what it's worth to us. We own it. We can do what we want. We'll lease it to MX Sports for $1 million.
Correct.
And then MX Sports, whether you make $100,000 or $5 million, doesn't matter. We've got our $1 million. You run the series. This is what you. That's how the deal works.
Well, that would brings up a bigger question. Why would somebody have a series and pay somebody $1 million just to have the AMA name on it and do nothing?
Well, because the AMA does a lot.
No, not AMA doesn't do anything. They pay at the track. The tracks pay the AMA when they're there.
Yeah, but so you can probably speak to what the AMA does, right?
So, well, there's really now, there is no AMA that comes to the track because that would be MX Sports that bring the correct.
But in terms of the organization of AMA, like why do they exist? What do they do?
Really, that now AMA is just a name that it is the AMA because AMA Pro Racing is owned by DMG Group. So,
but it's the sanctioning body, right?
Yeah.
So like what you said, like that's what means something is like the number one played. It's AMA or the AMA Championship. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and they do all the insurances and all of that sort of stuff and licensing of the riders. You've got to be an AMA Pro license.
As far as I know, and then I'm not saying because I don't get into that, but as far as I know, what I hear from the riders actually license themselves through MX Sports.
Yeah, but I think it's all through the back end of AMA, right?
I'm not sure. Everything goes through MX Sports, so I'm not sure what they do with the licensing fee after that because that is for the riders. Yep. So the riders do have to get there's two separate pro licenses. There's a Supercross Pro license that goes through AMA Ohio, I guess what I call it.
Yep.
And that goes through AMA Ohio. Once that series is over, the riders actually have to purchase another pro license under motocross, which goes through MX Sports with an entry fee, of course, to go. Yep. Now, that does go through the MX Sports website. You can go to MX Sports and you can sign up for Southwick if you want to race right now. Yep. Now, those fees, in my viewpoint, would go back to MX Sports.
Yeah, they make all the
those fees. Yeah. So I'm going back to where kind of our breakdown came from is on to this point. So the riders are paying their fees to Motocross Supercross, okay, their rider's fee. In that, riders will get hard cards and sponsors will get hard cards because, again, the sponsors are paying too to go to these events. And the teams are paying to go to these events to park, so they get their hard cards. And then in return, each rider gets a certain amount of passes to come into the event for the riders. And then those are the top teams, and most of them have hard cards, which is quite a few hard cards that come into the park.
I've got a hard card.
Yeah. So you understand what I'm saying? So then when the MPG was running, I just give you a real quick breakdown, just to make it real simple. When the MPG was running, there was sponsor money that was put together. There was a points fund that we did for the riders as the MPG. And we paid an AMA rights fee back then to
How much was it roughly?
I want to say
$25,000.
$25,000 back then we were paying.
Yep.
Okay, and back then too, so we got this point, and then again they still had their riders services where they had hard cards. They had the riders that came up and needed to buy extra passes. They were allowed so many. And back in the day, I'd always reconcile with AMA, and at the end of the year, we would get a certain amount of money back from the AMA for overage from the rider. So we would get a portion of it. So if they sold the ticket for $50, we might get $15 a ticket for that. And that was how it used to go. So then that stayed on there. So at the end of the year for the MPG, after we paid all these expenses, including Carrie, John Ayers, all the expenses, there was a fund, and we would divide that between 12 promoters, and we would get a check, for some thousands of dollars that would go back to us.
How much do you reckon?
I would say it would always roughly from about 30 to sometimes 50,000. It was kind
So
of
that was basically what you'd make for a national for a year.
well, not make. That was just the extra money because we would.
Sponsors, yeah.
Yeah, we were a group, so we shared in all the series sponsors. We shared in all of the, but then we also shared all the expenses too. So that was how it was. We took all the expenses, we took all the sponsor money, minus plus, and then that was and divided by 12 promoters, and that money was divided. And again, Carrie Coombs handled all that.
Yeah.
So that was how it went. Then we went to where we were with Carrie at this contract. So basically, yeah, we came in with a rights fee that went considerably higher. We no longer had any sponsor money
How
because
much higher did it go?
we went up to, I think when we first started, it was 50,000.
So is this with MX Sports now?
MX Sports
Yep,
now.
Yep, yep.
So-
So do you understand how? So when it was just the MPG, there was no middleman. Like
No.
DMG became a middleman.
Correct.
So that's where I think everything got more expensive, right?
Yeah, may
Yeah.
I just point out?
Yeah.
Point out here a quote, not a quote, but here, just read it.
Yeah, I can read it for you. So it just what's highlighted. Sorry.
It's an article and it was written, but what's highlighted is all.
So, two of the contenders in the four-way fight for control were simultaneously knocked out. The WPSA, which had been the main threat on the ATV side, filed for bankruptcy, while the bidding war for AMA Pro Racing was won by DMG, which immediately sold the portion to MX Sports. So,
And that's my point. We were told at the same day,
Yeah.
bad news, you lost. Good news, we won.
so,
That is not
Yeah.
legitimate.
so MX Sports doesn't own the rights though, even now.
No,
It's a lease.
it's a lease, so they have a contract. Yes,
Yeah.
I do know they have a
Yeah,
contract.
yeah.
But yeah, they're so I guess back to the point that we're not to this point is all having to do with the riders ticketing,
Yep.
the teams, that kind of money. So if you take out all the elements that now the promoters have lost sponsorships, truthfully, because all the series sponsors are going to go to MX Sports because, like you said, we have a middleman, okay? So we're not getting that. We can sell our title sponsor and we can do a
Yeah.
few vendors. And so basically the only income that the tracks have now to subsidize the $50,000 to $100,000 rights fee
Plus
the track fees, plus the pro purse fees,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot to build a track. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
say,
yeah,
Ryan Villapota made a great point. Glen Helen is a whole nother animal
Oh yeah.
on national. That's an
Dude,
expensive
crazy. Yeah.
amount of money to make Glen Helen
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So you have to look at the fencing, as because we want the fans to have the experience. So
Yeah,
we have to
yeah.
have safety fences, ambulance roads. So it's very expensive. So we lost this little extra money that we had when we didn't have the middleman, like you said.
Yeah.
And so the tickets are very, very important to Glen Helen.
Yeah.
Tickets are the
Yeah.
most important things. We have to sell our tickets. And making it a Saturday event only, it's very hard to have amateur day on Friday when you got to be done at 2:00. And who wants to ride Glen Helen the day after a national? Nobody wants to ride Glen
Yeah,
Helen.
yeah, yeah.
So it became a ticket thing. So when they kept asking for more and more tickets for their riders,
How much did he ask for?
they were asking for 2,500 extra tickets
Extra,
extra,
in on top of.
of all the hard cards that they had already sold. And
but we don't pay for hard cards.
Oh,
no,
that's a point right there.
yeah, you do. Some people do.
Well, I'm telling you now, like in terms of me, like I
I don't think media does
Okay, okay.
pay for hard cards. I'm saying
so-
riders.
Yeah.
So when the riders pay, I don't
but
know
the
how.
riders pay for hard cards.
Well, if
Of
your
course.
licensing fee.
Let me. I can read it first if you like.
I'll show you. Here.
So I guess to
Here's what the teams have to pay,
Yeah.
and then riders. There's the teams, what the teams pay to the MX Sports.
Yeah.
And they need those tickets to. That's for hard cards, and then go back up here. The other one, next page. Next one, I think. Right
This
there.
one here?
Yeah.
All right, so this is to Dr. Feldkamp.
No, here. I'm sorry. I want to.
So yeah, the riders do pay for they do pay for their hard cards, and the teams do pay for their hard cards.
Event passes.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.